So here we go, we're going to look at simplifying expressions. Some have parentheses, some don't. Some have like terms, some don't, some have both. This is where we want to take the 9 and distribute it. So the process of doing that, written out, is to give the 9 to the 5c and the 6. So I'm going to take my 5c and my 6 and set them up and multiply each one by 9. Because 5c and 6 cannot combine as like terms, they each have to get their own copy of the 9. That's not 96, it's 9 times 6. It'll get us to 9 times 5 for the number being 45, and it still has a c on it, plus 9 times 6 is 54, does not have a c on it, making them not like terms, and finished. Now this one has a 3x and a 5. But what we're sharing is a negative 4. This isn't just a 4 that's being distributed. It's a dash 4, a negative 4. So I'll bring negative 4 to each term as a shared factor. Factors are things that get multiplied. And so as we look at what this does, it's going to get negative 4 times 3, negative 12, but that has an x. This other one has negative 4 times 5, negative 20. No x present, no like terms remaining here, and that's done. So if you can't combine the two terms that are inside the parentheses, they each have to get treated to a copy of the factor as a multiplier when we get on through there. So here comes negative 8. And this is 6p plus negative 4. It was 6p minus 4. Of course, when we see a true minus, we insert the plus sign. So what we have going on here is we have a 6p term, and we have a negative 4 term. In blue, we have the plus sign, as well as each term is going to get hit with a multiplication by negative 8. I can stand in front of the room and shout or get mad or whatever it is, but people miss this frequently. It's called distributing a negative. On the first one, we have a negative 8 times 6. That's a negative 48, single dash on that term. It's got a p as its only part of the label, p as a variable. Plus, we have negative 8 times negative 4. What we have is 8 times 4 will get us 32, but the opposite of negative, one blue, one black, is going to give me 2 dashes on this term. Since it's an even number of dashes, it is not negative, it stays positive. One term has p, one does not, they don't combine. Now here comes one with a fraction and a negative. So if you're like, oh, I don't like the ones with fractions. Well, they have to get the work done when it's time to multiply a fraction or add a fraction. That's when we'll deal with it. Initially, we have to distribute it. So we're going to do what that requires first, and then we'll see what it takes. This is a negative 3 over 8 as our distributed factor. And in here we have 5y minus 16 will become 5y plus negative 16. So I'll put my plus right there. Now one of the terms from in the parentheses was 5y, and the other was a negative 16. What we're doing is we're taking this as like a rubber stamp. It's something that you take a picture of and you bring it over to each existing term from its own parentheses that follow it. And so we're going to have to put a negative 3/8 in front of the 5y, whatever that's going to require, and a negative 3/8 in front of the negative 16. Since we're dealing with fractions, we'll probably want to put those terms now over 1, and we'll see what we get. What we get here is negative 3 times 5 with a y, negative 15 with a y. The denominator is 8. Plus, we have negative 3 times negative 16. That's 48 over 8. There's a way to cancel here. It's a little tough with the negatives. If you put both negatives out front, you could divide 8 by 8 and divide 16 by 8 and get 3 times 2 for where this will wind up. But what we wind up with here is negative 15y over 8 that does not reduce, plus this number turns out to be 6 over 1, commonly known as 6. What happens when you face the fraction? You don't close the book and run away. You don't say, I can't do it, I hate fractions. Maybe you do, but saying it doesn't get the problem done. What we do is the process of taking negative 3/8 to be distributed, and there's the physical act of distributing it. And then we have to tackle the other demons that might exist, which is how do I multiply a fraction by an integer? And what does it do in terms of sign. 3 times 5 with a negative, negative 15. The denominator is 8 times 1. That stuck around as a fraction and was negative. We can live with that. Negative 3 times negative 16 will get you positive 48. 8 times 1 on the bottom will get you 8, and 48 over 8 worked out to be 6. This is why I put my dashes on the top of my fraction, because they'll get together and they'll create the situation where you either get a positive or negative numerator, but the denominator will remain positive, and we'll see where it takes us from there. What happens on this one? Negative. Negative what? Not negative air. That parenthesis isn't a number. There's a negative 1 there, right? If someone says, do you have transportation? If you're thinking of it's a car, yes, I have a car, right? If you say I have a car, and in some languages it might translate to I have car, without even the word a. It means you have one. It doesn't mean you have 20. If we had 20 cars and they wanted to know that, then you would say there are 20, but I have a car. 1 is the same number as having a car, right? So we got a 1 there. We also have a 1 here in front of the x, because if it's just x, it means 1x. I have x, but not more than one of them, so I have that going on. Additionally, I have these pure minuses that I'm going to have to insert a plus in front of them, and now let's see what this does. I have negative, you're flipping through these markers pretty quickly here, 1 times 1x plus, again I have the negative 1, but this time it's times negative 3x, negative 3y, plus, again I have negative 1, and this time it's times negative 7z. What's that make? Negative 1 times 1 with an x, negative 1x. Negative 1 times negative 3, 1 times 3 is 3, 2 negatives make it into an even number of dashes, so this is positive when I do my 3y, plus 1 times 7 is 7, 2 dashes is even, makes it positive, and it's got a z. None of them are like terms with any of the others, so they don't combine. Speaking of like terms, we get into that in problem number 6. It says dash 6k dash 5k. That is negative 6k plus negative 5k for the work I want to do, right? You might see it as negative 6k minus 5k, the way it would be called up here minus. Great. So now I'll rewrite it. Negative 6k dash 5k, turn it into addition of negative 5k, and that frees up the negative 5k to move, right? Check and move, like stick and move, it's going to be like that. Keep the coefficient, keep the label as k, determine what you get with negative 6 plus negative 5. They work together, we get an 11. Strong is the 6, which is negative. This is negative 11k and nothing else. It does not become k squared. We're counting up k's, they're still k's. How many are there? In this case, with the negatives we have, we got negative 6. Now in this one, 2x cubed y plus 6 dash 4 dash x cubed y. Cubed is the third power, squared is the second power. Put 1 in here, so I know that's actually minus 1 at this moment. Now I shouldn't say minus. 2x cubed y plus 6 plus negative 4 rather than minus 4 plus negative 1 x cubed y. Now I have there's my first x cubed y term, my first number term. Here's another number term. It gets a check and it moves into the number column. Negative 1 x cubed y is an x cubed y term which already has a column, and that is negative 1 x cubed y. We are not doing opposites and we're not scratching out columns here. We're getting, this is x cubed y. Keep the label. 2 minus 1 gets me 1, or 2 plus negative 1. 6 plus negative 4 gets me 2. That's a number. It cannot combine with our terms that have that x cubed y. This is the first one we're looking at here in the homework that has both. What we have here is, I'm going to put a plus in front of the minus 3, and I'll have my negative 4 times my 2b. Blue plus sign. Negative 4 times my negative 3 plus the 16. The parentheses are gone. The first step is, if there are parentheses, get rid of them. By doing that, you either have to distribute, which will happen when they don't have like terms inside, or you'll combine the like terms inside and you'll multiply by the result of a single term that you found. Negative 8b plus 4 times 3 with two negatives, that's the opposite of negative or positive for my 12, plus 16. Now the parentheses are gone, and the multiplication has been done. This is my first b term, this is my first number term. Here comes another number term, positive 16 will move to the number column, and we'll get negative 8b plus 28. No more like terms, so that will be the way that one winds up. Okay, here we're looking at continuing to simplify. We're working on distributing and combining like terms. Number 9 is here. 5 minus 4 doesn't always automatically make 1. Here's what we've got to do. We have to say that's minus, let's put in our plus sign there, right? So as we go to do that, you're going to see that it breaks off the terms and 5 does not immediately hit the 4. We've got 5-4 parentheses b plus 7 and close. The plus sign, because you heard minus, goes there. 5 plus negative 4 times the quantity of b plus 7. In there it's just ab, it's not the letter ab, it's a b, it's 1b. So now, when we come back through, we'll see we have our 5. We have our blue plus sign. What's getting distributed here is negative 4, which I'll also turn blue so you can see where it's getting its work coming from. Negative 4 times 1b plus. We have, that's the plus that was there in black. The 4 brings its negative with it. It's not distributing a 4, it's distributing a negative 4 times our 7. What's that create? It's going to create 5 plus negative 4 times 1 with a b, negative 4b, and negative 4 times 7 for negative 28. You have 3 terms, 2 of them are numbers. Because 2 are numbers, they are like terms. So when we have our 5b, our 5 rather, plus negative 4b plus negative 28 that we have right here, we'll move the negative 28 here under the 5 as a number term. So we'll not have a written label. It'll be 28 minus 5 for 23, strong on the negative, plus negative 4b. We'll tend to write the term that has a variable ahead of the term that's just a constant. And we don't need the plus sign in between them, but we can certainly have that. It could be negative 4b plus negative 23, or negative 23 plus negative 4b, or instead of plus negative, you can have minus, as will sometimes be the case in the work we'll see people doing. Let's look at this one. Negative 3 times 2x plus 6 plus a 6, which I'll also do in blue, times 5x plus 4. So here we'll have a 2x, and we'll have a 6, plus back here we'll have a 5x, plus we'll have a 4. And the first 2 are ahead of this plus sign right here. And both of those terms for the first pair of parentheses are going to get hit with a negative 3 factor as a multiplier. After the big black plus sign, which I've inflated its size for demonstration purposes, we're going to see that both of the terms in the second parentheses are going to get hit with 6 as a multiplier. So when we get to this, we get 3 times 2 with a negative, negative 6, and has an x, plus negative 3 times 6 is negative 18, no x, plus 6 times 5 is 30 with an x, plus 6 times 4 is 24 with no x. No more parentheses. And the goal is initially to get rid of parentheses. After the parentheses are gone in this expression, it's not an equation, we're going to combine like terms. Negative 6x is our first x term. Negative 18 is our first number. 30x is our next x term. We'll move that to the x column. Plus 24 moves here. If you've done algebra before, you have to recognize that what we're doing here is moving any term as it is with the sign that it has to the column where it belongs. Keep the label of x. This is 30 plus negative 6. 30 minus 6 will get me 24 strong, like the 30 on the positive. Plus negative 18 plus 24, subtract 24 minus 18, you'll get 6 strong on the positive, like the 24. And they're not like terms, so they stay as 24 for the x term. plus 6 for the number term. Next we have 2 times b dash 4w in parentheses. Then we have this dash, and back here we have 2b plus 4w. What's that? Let's see. In front of the b we have a 1, right? We have 1b, we have a b, so we have 1b. And here, where we have minus, we can't go right into minus parentheses, so we have minus 1 for parentheses. There are 2 pure subtractions here, pure minus. 1b minus 4 should turn into 1b plus negative 4. Minus 1 before the second parenthesis should turn to plus negative 1. So now we'll see that this turns into 2 times 1 with a b, blue plus 2 times negative 4 with a w. Comes a blue plus sign, the big blue plus sign if you want to think of it as that. And now we're going to have negative 1, red, times 2b plus negative 1 times 4w. That's going to make for me 2 times 1 with a b, 2b, plus 2 times negative 4, negative 8 with a w, plus negative 1 times 2 with a b, plus negative 1 times 4, negative 4 with a w. And now we'll combine like terms. First b, first w, second b, second w. 2b plus negative 8w untouched. Negative 2b stays as it is, negative 2b but moves to the b column. Negative 4w comes over here as negative 4w. Okay. 2b plus negative 2b is actually 0, and we don't write it at all. We don't write the b's, we don't write the 0, but we do have negative 8 plus negative 4 for negative 12w as the only surviving term. Now we have this negative 4y plus, we'll go blue with the 3, and in here we've got y plus 2 before we have a pure minus with the 8. Therefore, in front of the pure minus, we're going to put plus negative on that 8, and in front of the y, we're going to put the 1. Creates for us negative 4y plus 3 times 1y y is black, so y will be black. Okay. Plus 3 times a black 2 plus negative 8. As the terms get more compacted, we'll see after the equal sign, negative 4y unchanged. 3 times 1 with a y, 3y. 3 times 2 with no letter will be plus 6. And then plus negative 8 that hasn't changed in that process. All right. First y, second y, first number, second number. Negative 4y plus 3y. Okay. First number gets to stay there, but negative 8 has to move as negative 8 under there. Remember, if you've done algebra before, we're not doing plus 8. Keeping it as negative 8 and moving it to a column where it belongs. These are our works that we're doing right now here. It's combining like terms in an expression. Negative 4 plus 3, subtract to get a 1, but strong on the negative, that's your y term. Y is keeping the label, plus 6 minus 8, 6 plus negative 8, subtract and get a 2, strong on the negative, negative 1y plus negative 2. The 1 between the dash and the y is optional. The plus sign between terms is optional, but your terms will be a negative y with 1 if it has a written coefficient, and a positive 2. I'm sorry, a negative 2. They can be separated by plus signs, or they can each have the dash in front of them and convert to what's called minus. All right. On On this one, we have 5 times b plus 3 in parentheses. Then we have a dash, and we have 10, and we have a dash, and we have 6 with parentheses b dash 9. What we need here is a few ones. We have 1b. We have 1b. When we just have a single b, we have what we call 1b. Plus signs, when we see a pure minus. When it was about to say minus 10 plus negative 10. About to say minus 6 plus negative 6. About to say minus 9 plus negative 9. So, let's get after them. We have 5 times 1 with a b plus 5 times 3 plus negative 10 that doesn't change in this step. It's behind the inserted plus sign, sure. Plus negative 6 times 1b plus negative 6 times negative 9. The only color change I'm going to insert here is back here when I put my negative 6's in, they were blue. So I'm going to say that when this is the distributed negative 6, I'm going to convert that to blue for us. The terms we create here are 5b, 5 times 1 with a b, plus 5 times 3, 15 with no letters, plus negative 10 that doesn't change, plus negative 6 times 1, negative 6 with a b, plus negative 6 times negative 9. That's two negatives. The opposite of negative is positive. 6 times 9 gets me 54. And now we're going to look at our b's and our numbers. First b, first number. Negative 10 goes under 15. Negative 6b is a b term. It goes under negative 5b. Negative 6b. And 54 goes under at the bottom of the number column. What we get is 5 minus 6. Subtract for 1, strong on the negative. 1b. Negative 1b. And then we have 15 and 54 are positive. That's 69 plus negative 10 plus 59. Answer for that one is negative 1b. You don't need the 1, but you must have a negative in front of the b, plus 59. And that's what we're working on. I need you to understand as we move further into the course, it's very important that you recognize there were no equal signs in the original work that we had. These were expressions, not equations. So we're not doing the opposite. The only scratch out on the entire board is here, because it just happened that when we had negative 2b go under 2b, that made 0. But we're not adding the opposite, as will happen in other parts of solving equations. It's very important that you distinguish between this and when you go to a difficult equation to solve. The first two steps are often to get rid of the parentheses and combine like terms on the expressions that are on each side of the equal sign. Like take care of the left side till it's just 2 terms. Take care of the right side till it's 2 terms. This is what's going on then. What happens later when we get into the solving of equations is a separate step that comes after all that's done to do what I call get rid of the bigger bank balance debt. So we're going to go into that in another problem. But that takes care of homework 6C.